Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to your own Silicon Valley Tech Talks show, your go to place to learn about technology trends and innovations directly from the leaders. This is your host, Faisal Wattu from San Jose, California. In today's show, we will learn about open source networking and the role of AI in the networking space. We are fortunate to have Vishal Shukla as our guest today. Vishal is co founder and CEO at Aviz Networks, a promising startup in Silicon Valley in networking space. Vishal brings 20 plus years of experience in the IT industry, and before Aviz Networks, he held executive leadership roles at companies like NVIDIA Mellanox, BNT, IBM, Cisco, and Nortel Networks. So without any further delay, let's go and talk to Vishal and learn from his insights. Hello, Vishal. Welcome to our show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Faisal. Thank you for having me on the show.
Great to have you. So, Vishal, tell us about the core problem Avis Networks is solving and how is it differentiated from incumbent players in this space like Cisco, Nortel Networks, and Arista?
Yeah. So if you really see, we are living in this AI era, and essentially they are redefining the networking how it used to happen earlier. And primarily there are three reasons. The definition of compute, because of which people make networks, is changing itself. It's just GPUs are driving major share of the compute, and then there is this AI is generating a lot of content, which are essentially pushing on bandwidth requirements. So bandwidth usage is increasing, and then AI itself is set to drive efficiencies in the network. So these three things are fundamentally changing on how the networks has been deployed and everything. And attached to that, the deployment cycles are being shrinking. Earlier, it used to be 5 to 7 years when you go from 10 gig to 100 gig or 100 to 400. Now the same thing is happening in 3 to 5 years. So budget spikes are happening, and customers have to deploy their networks. So it needs a new methodology to basically build networks because of the AI era. And that's what essentially we are solving. And we are solving it in a way that it remains comprehensive, that includes the whole ecosystem, because the bottom line is that it should be open to embrace the technology as it comes, and which is coming very fast nowadays. But at the same time, does not do budget spike and also keep the operating layer standard, right? So what it means exactly, if you want to do these three things and keep the networks open for absorbing this technology, is that you have to have a lot of choices on the hardware side. Select whatever hardware you want. You need to keep the control, the negotiation power with you, and as well as control in sense of managing your networks on how you want to manage it. And then you do everything while you don't spike the budget. So essentially cost savings. So this is what we are doing. And Cisco, Arista, Juniper, all these companies which you mentioned, they are great companies. They have great vertically integrated stack. But the problem is, because these are end-to-end solution companies, and they cannot provide the single standard layer for multi-vendor. And that's where is the problem we are solving. And they, by the way, are partnering with us to bring this multi-vendor demand supplied to the customers. And as you can see, majority of the networking switching vendors in the world are essentially our investors. And this is how it's a testament that how the world is changing and how customers are looking at networks and how these big vendors are looking at networks. So it's a very interesting time we live in.
Vishal, you briefly mentioned earlier about open networking. So tell us about the unique value proposition of open source networking. How is it different from traditional networking models? And do you think it'll become mainstream or stay as a niche segment?
Yeah. So look, I mean, first of all, I want to tell you that, the open networking, this term has been there for, I don't know, decades. Many companies tried doing open networking, but didn't work out really. The reason is that what customer wants is an open source networking, not open networking. And there's a difference between them. I mean, if you look at Gartner reports 3 years or older, they used to call open networking, but now they have started calling it Sonic, because Sonic is basically has become the name of the open source networking. And why it sticks, and I'll tell you the reason it will stick. I'll answer the later question first. Why it's going to stick? If you look at the open source, take any open source in the world, the open source which are invented by the dominant customer has a tendency to stick. And I'll give you examples, such as the Kafka was developed by LinkedIn, dominant player. Then Kubernetes was developed by Google, which is a dominant consumer. So because there is a pull from the users, these open source tend to stick as compared to the vendor invented open source, because that typically goes onto the path of my open source is better than your open source. So those don't exist, right? So in this case, Sonic was developed by Microsoft, which is one of the dominant consumer in the world. And then they pretty much told all the switch vendors that you have to make sure that it works for me. And that thought process has started going towards the non-hyperscalers, and it is going there. So why it is important? It is important because it helps you to consume the technology at a fast pace. If all the different competing vendors are adhering to at least one standard, that gives the control to the customer. That gives the choices to the customers. And with that control and choices comes the cost savings. So essentially, because there is so much value ROI built into it, it will essentially will stay there because you have dominant consumer dependent on that. And then I see that the reason why customers will increase in the deployments and everything with Sonic is because it provides the control choices and the cost savings to the customer. So that's essentially, absorption of the technology at a faster pace. So this is what open networking / Sonic provides.
Vishal, tell us about the role of AI co-pilots in networking. How do they add value? Because networking is mission critical and there is very, very narrow margin of error.
Yes. So first of all, I want to tell you that, like any other vertical in the world, AI is set to disrupt it. And it's just a matter of time that in what industry the AI co-pilots becomes the table stake, right? It's just depends upon the appetite of that industry, but it is inevitable it will happen. Now let's talk about networking. AI co-pilots has to, horizontally cut across all different kind of infrastructure which you have. Because think of a human networking engineer. That engineer has to know the Cisco deployment, which is there, Arista deployment, then needs to understand firewall, needs to understand load balancers, and then SD-WANs, and then also need to understand the knowledge base. So it's not just intelligentsia attached to one vendor. So the AI which has to be coming in networks, first of all, should have the ability to understand the whole infrastructure end to end and the knowledge base and everything. Then it needs to be private in a sense, because you don't want to send this data to as a platform SaaS somewhere running and everything. Then it needs to be pragmatic. I mean, use case by use case. I mean, think of how you make networks. You don't just boil everything on one day. You do it in a very pragmatic manner. So AI has to be also pragmatic, and this has to be also price conscious in a sense that whatever you spend on it should be dependent on what is the return of investment you are getting from the use cases what you are doing. Now, since I said use cases, this is where I segue into the second part of your question, that networking is so mission critical. So where the AI will come. So we believe that, think of an example like Tesla, right? They started putting AI into driving, which is like life critical for a matter if you do a mistake on the road. But they put it there. So let's draw the parallels. They basically starting putting the AI, for which customers has been using the radar-based cruise control for years. So they didn't start something miraculous on day one. They just said, look, you do the cruise control today with the radar. Let us give you the same cruise control, but with AI. So customers were like halfway there. They knew that it works, right? And it's fine. I have the control of my steering and everything. So they started doing that. And the first step, right? The second step was, reduce the speed and, basically join the next lane, right, while keeping the control to you. So you see how pragmatically they did one thing at a time. They didn't directly go and tell them that, look, red signal versus green signal. Now coming back to networking, this is how exactly it's going to happen in networking. So the mundane use cases like generating compliance report, doing the show version and then comparing it with some feature support and all these kind of things, checking that my upgrade went fine or not, checking the configuration that this firewall rule is applied or not. That will be the first phase of AI deployments, because even if it is wrong, it's only read. It's read it wrong, fine, no problem. There is no writing will happen in first phase. Eventually, people will start writing in staging, and then finally they will go to the autonomous network. We believe that we are at least 3 to 5 years away from that. Technology exists, yes, it does. like Tesla technology existed at that point of time also. But will people trust it? Well, it's going to take at least 3 to 5 years after they have been running on the AI to actually give their networks to AI. So mission critical part of the networks will not go to AI as of today, even though technology exists, because people needs to trust. It's not about technology, it's about people need to trust. Then only it will happen.
Vishal, you touched on how AI is driving the networking demand and reshaping the networking industry. So, continuing with that point, what are some of the future trends and challenges you are anticipating in years to come?
Well, so I think, like I said, the AI gonna become the table stake. So essentially, the network operators will have to learn how to infuse AI into your daily, or we call it everyday networking. Sooner you start, better it is, because you see what is happening in our lives, normal life, right? We use Chat GPT. I mean, earlier we used to do 10 steps to reach to a thing. Now you just talk, right, and it converts in English, and you get a lot of different things, right? So it will happen to networking operations as well, networking management, networking planning, capacity planning, network architecture, all these kind of things, right? So this will become the table stake. So that's one thing. Second thing is that the hardware, the speeds and feeds will change at a very frequent speed as compared to what it was earlier, because now you have AI generating content, and not just the text content. It's generating videos, generating text, and all these kind of things. And if you look at these conferences from this big e-commerce and everything, now you can just put the product name and it will make the video for you automatically, and you can have tens of videos. Earlier it used to take months to make the video of the product. Now you just 5 seconds, you have 10 videos. Where those bandwidth will go from, right? So basically it will come to the networks, and networks will eventually has to be replaced. So what I'm trying to say here is that you need to make the standardization of network in a way that you can actually increase your bandwidth and stay with where your customer wants you to be, without infusing a lot of capitals, without infusing a lot of silos of automation. So you need to make a plan. So open networking is essentially good for that. It gives you the multi-vendor ways of doing this, gives you the control of negotiation, control of your operations, and it keeps your costs flat, does not spike the budget. So that's something, the second thing, which is from the networks for AI point of view. The third thing is mainly for the executives. They need to start thinking, how do they deploy this AI mindset for networks, which was my first point, right? Because it's going to get the table stakes. And then how do they make their networks which are not dependent on basically doing budget spike all the time, right? So this is for the executives to basically start thinking on what is their roadmap for rethinking their networks in the age of AI era. And I mean, we talk to a lot of executives. There's a lot of questioning which they have, and they should reach out to people like us to essentially just talk. I mean, there's no selling involved. This is just a discussion on how we think we have learned from thousands of other executives whom we have talked to in this world.
Vishal, you've had roles at big companies and now you are in entrepreneurship. What advice you will give to entrepreneurs who are building companies in this AI age and trying to build products with AI?
Yes, so one of the thing which within I have seen in past 3 years since we started, and here we are now, the speed of prototyping has essentially reduced a lot, right? So I think if you have an idea, or you think that uh, you want to try something, use the AI to the fullest to basically prototype your thing fast. Don't marry to your ideas. It's end of the day, customers are the one who gonna pay for it, right? And if they are not feeling excited about it, well, then there is some gap which needs to be fixed, and you need to think about it. Maybe it's in your features, maybe it's in your messaging. Something got to change. Speed at which you do things matters a lot. That's what I would advise, is that if you are in it, do it fast, iterate fast, pivot fast, and realize that something needs to be changed fast. By the way, now the tools are available for doing these things, so we are better off where we were 3 years back, that I can tell you.
Well said, Vishal. Thank you so much for joining our show. I'm sure audience learned a lot from your insights.
Thank you, Fazil, for giving me the opportunity to be on your platform. And I'm happy to be here, and great questions. Thank you very much.